Hi, my name's Londe Yusuf.
And my name is Reggie Williams.
And we're the co-founders of Black Film Space. Black Film Space is a grassroots organization dedicated to enhancing the skill sets of Black filmmakers and building a community of creatives. We host events such as screenwriting workshops, panels, mixers, and other events that are designed to support Black content creators.
In the next episode of the Black Film Space podcast, we interview Dawn Gilliam, a script supervisor and teacher. Dawn has worked in the latest Star Wars trilogy, Black Panther, Boyz in the Hood, and many more of your favorite films and TV shows. We talk with Dawn about her workflow process, working with new directors, her online course entitled The Art of Continuity, and much more. And now, on to our interview. All right, Dawn, thank you so much for joining us on the Black Film Space podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. And how are you guys doing?
Doing
Great.
good, doing good. Really looking forward to this interview. I mean, you've got an amazing resume. I was just telling Londe, you're like the Steven Spielberg of script supervising. It's insane.
Well, as they say, hashtag blessed, you know.
Yes, yes.
I would not be able to do anything if I did not have a foundation and, as they like to say, a higher power.
So you have a course titled The Art of Continuity. Can you explain to us what art means to you in the context of continuity and script supervising?
The art in the continuity for me, the job as a script supervisor is a twofold job. Half the job is paperwork and the other half is filmmaking. And they actually do coincide with each other. And so the art part for me is the presentation of my paperwork, how I present the work so that it is easy to gather the information and it's visually pleasing to the eye. And then with this type of, and that is my art, it's my artistry, how I even line the script, put my lines and circles on it that the editor, it's a system that the editor uses to be able to know what's on the film by the lines that are on the script. And so I don't just put it on there haphazardly. There is an art form to it. And that's what I call my art. And then also just the art of filmmaking, being able to be a part of the filmmaking process and creating a story and supporting the director's vision. And that is also the other part of the artistry in continuity.
Dawn, can you talk about how you developed this skill over time?
Well, you know, I really think about things when I was growing up. One, I'm older than I look, even though we can't see each other over here. But
We saw your picture. Look it to me.
When I, in the 9th grade, I started to learn how to type. My father was a finance officer in the Air Force, and he said, learn to type because he could type. So learning to type, having true secretarial skills. I've taken every secretarial course that I could, you know, when I was growing up. And so that was able to lend itself into me becoming a script supervisor because of just being able to organize the paperwork. And then I did not realize, for me, I am a person who observes, you know, I just look, I just kind of like open my eyes and just let it all come in. And when I started out as a dancer, and so, and then I started to go into acting and doing commercials and modeling and being on the set, even back in the day when they used to have a Screen Extras Guild, the background artist, I was on the set all the time. And so I just kind of sort of opened my eyes. And when I started to look into script supervising and started reading the books, there were things that I knew, but I just didn't know what they were called. Just being observant, because we observe all the time, to where it goes into my everyday life where I see a lot of stuff, you know, it just kind of comes in, you know, people don't, I don't necessarily have to be staring at you, but I see you, So I just through the years, you just learn to be more observant with the notes. You become more detailed. Precise is my motto, where I'm able to be able to describe something in fewer words using technical words. Um, so yeah, I think that developed. So the art of observing, being detail minded. I could say that I did not know that I was like that, and other people would point it out and said you were anal, and I was like, really? Yes. So I didn't even really know what those things were, but I just developed as I started to do the different projects.
So can you tell us more about how you broke into the industry? Like, I know you started off dancing and you did some background work, and then can you tell us how you got to become a script supervisor?
In 1989, the producers were going to break the Screen Actors Guild because they allowed the non-union sector to become bigger than the union sector. And so I started looking around on the set, and a woman said, "Oh, I'm like the secretary on the set." And so that resonated with me, of course, because I have a secretarial background. And so I went to the library and I looked it up, found a book, because we only have like about 2 books. I think now we might have 3 books on script supervising. And I started reading it, and that's when I found out that I was paying attention and just didn't know what things were called. I went to get a class, to sign up for a class at UCLA. They sent me my money back because they weren't having, I guess they didn't have enough students. And so I just kept, because I worked in the industry, I just started like reading the book, and I would ask questions to the people that would be on the set. And then in 1990, January 1990, I sent out a notification to UCLA Film School, let me see, USC Film Department, and said, trainee script supervisor, made a little poster, trainee script supervisor looking for work. And John Singleton grabbed that poster, and about May, he called me. I went and I did a music video, which I couldn't tell you what it is to this day. And I don't even think he looked at my notes. And then a young lady who is a second assistant director in the industry, Renice Holmes, she said, "Hey, there's this class over here from with Jim Kelly Durgan, who is now since passed." And I took his class, and then maybe I took class for about a month, and then I got the call from John Singleton to interview for Boyz n the Hood, and Steve Nicolaitis. I don't know if he's still in the industry today, but he was with Castle Rock at the time. He gave me that opportunity and let me do it. And so my first film, 7 months later, after I decided January 1990 to becoming a script supervisor, I was working on Boyz n the Hood. And then I ended up taking class privately because I needed more information. I just started working on Boyz n the Hood and went back to my teacher maybe 2 weeks later to show him my notes. He made a couple of adjustments, and that was it.
Dope. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
what was your experience like on Boyz n the Hood?
Some of the department heads were veterans, but a lot of us were new, and a lot of us are still in the industry today. That propelled our career in this industry. And so I think that being new to it all, we didn't really know how special it was, but it was just cool being around, I think it was 95% Black on the set. So it was just cool. And everyone worked very hard to, get it done.
What do you enjoy about this, especially because you decided to transition into this career from being a performer?
What do I enjoy about it? I think it's just the storytelling, I didn't realize how much a storyteller I was. And I just enjoy just the whole process of being on the set and creating something and working, with actors, working with directors, working with the camera. I actually really liked the camera. That was when I was on set, they would let me jump on the cameras and stuff. And so that's what I really liked, but I didn't want to schlep all that equipment. So I do have composition, and so I that's what I really liked. But I just knew that there was just something that, wasn't me to be carrying around all that equipment and stuff like that. But so I enjoy it. I can look at it and look at the camera and I know a lot about the camera, which is really helpful in the job.
Can you talk a little bit about the etiquette for this job? Because, I'm a writer director, so is Reggie too. And I've worked on my own projects where we had a script supervisor and she was like really abrasive and she was really good at her job. But, she kind of like, affected the energy on set a little bit. And I remember talking to a colleague and they were like, you got to look for these specific things before you hire a script supervisor. She may have been good for another type of project. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit about that.
Well, it's an interesting. It is interesting of how script supervisors are trained or what type of training they've had and who their teacher has been. Some people are like self kind of taught, and I find that it is it's something that I don't know if it's prevalent in other crafts, but it is in this one. And then with the social media, we have different script supervising chat groups and people will post questions. And if you're new, just starting out and you post a question, I can tell by the question if you've had training or not. And so
wow.
And instead of people answering, people just want to give their opinion. So the person asking the question, they're getting a lot of different opinions, and you really should be taught by one system and then work that system and then branch out. And so one of the things that I teach my students is about the temperament. Some people, script supervisor, like you say, is abrasive because she wasn't taught that this ain't your film, child. If they want to do it that way, then let them do it that way. If it's something that might be technically wrong, then you spoke up once and then they don't want to do it because it's not your film, then you just write it in the notes so that when they're in post and something doesn't match or cut, then you can, they can't say, oh, that script supervisor, she didn't know. Nope. Written in the notes.
Okay.
So I think a lot of it is training and how they're trained, and it could be their personality. Yeah, because I get all kinds. I've got through the years of people talking about other script supervisors, and they kind of like have been doing they do some crazy stuff.
So can you walk us through your workflow process in pre-production? Like what type of paperwork you need to do, what conversations you're having with other crew members or directors or whomever?
Well, in prep, it is really good to give the script supervisor time to get familiar with the script. A lot of times, union-wise, you have at least 2 weeks. On the bigger projects, they try to bring you on just a little bit sooner, because the more that you have the script supervisor around and that you can hear the conversation, hear the lingo, because a lot of times there's already been a lot of meetings happening before you hired your script supervisor. So I find that prep is, really do need to bring the person in, and so that we can read the script. Sometimes they want to estimate a timing, which is the first duty, which is for pay. A lot of times people don't want to pay, but it really is extra out of the ordinary, unless you're doing a television series or something that has a definite timeline that you do need an estimate so that you know that you're not over or under. You should pay. Sometimes for films, it really, people have various reasons why they want an estimated timing, and a good estimated timing for a feature film takes anywhere from 3 days to a week to do. So I'll either or not do an estimated timing. And then you have to break down the script by the scene numbers. And even though the first assistant director has broken down the scene number, maybe assigned scene numbers to it, and a page count, their page counts are really different from the script supervisor's page count, because something might be an eighth of a page and they've broken it up to 4 parts and then call it 4/8 of a page. Well, we can't do that. That's not how it works on our end. And the script supervisor, you go by the script supervisor's scene and page count. We do a day chronology to know what days or nights are in a story, and to know if it's the same day or the same night. So either wardrobe, makeup, props, or whatever may or may not change. For me, I will schedule, after I'm hired, I immediately schedule, as soon as I can, a director's meeting. I have a director's meeting with my director or with the first AD. Sometimes they join in on the conversation, and we go over the story chronology, and so that I can get it right, because I may have thought it was another day, and they go, no, it's the same day. Or they've had that meeting that I wasn't at, and they say, we changed that tonight, and we haven't had a rewrite. So the director's meeting is very important to me, so that I can get out a story chronology to the other departments, because they have actually an idea what they think it is, but it's the script supervisor who says, okay, this is what we're going with. So I do that. I do a story chronology, do my scene and page counts for the second AD, because like I said, the first AD has put on the shooting schedule their versions of the page count, but it is my page count that we go by. And so I'll give that out to the second AD as soon as I can, so that if another shooting schedule comes out, that sometimes they change it and sometimes they don't, the page count. I do any other breakdowns that I might have, wardrobe, makeup, or anything like that. And then I go and I talk with those department heads. Sometimes I'll call a meeting for all of us to come together, so that we can all be on, especially if it's complicated, so that make sure that we're all on the same page. And then I like to, before the production meeting, is sometimes production meetings are kind of like hard to schedule. Some of the bigger projects, they have production meetings almost like every other day, so that they can, know where they're at in their schedule and what needs to be done. But before the really big one, or before we start shooting, I like to do a one-liner. The script supervisor's one-liner is the only form that it comes in story order. And so either I'll have that before the production meeting, or I will have it at least on the first day of shooting. And this is a guide for the other department heads. They find that it's just very valuable.
I'm sorry, what is a one-liner?
A one-liner is in story order, giving a one-line description of that scene.
Okay. Got it.
Can you talk about how indie, director or writer can best utilize their script supervisor, especially if they have a limited or small budget?
Well, one would be to bring them in into any meetings as early as you can, because they're having another creative eye to listen to your vision is like really helpful. Because it could be something where you said something but you forgot, and then we go to shoot that scene, and then the script supervisor, remember in the meeting you kind of wanted to do this, and okay. So that is also helpful. And to utilize them is to, first you got to trust them, because it takes a moment. If you've never worked with that person and they were referred, and maybe you trust your referral and all that kind of stuff, it's not until they speak up and you listen to what they have to say. And if it really doesn't jive with your vision, then you're not going to trust it. So it doesn't matter when they speak up or if they don't speak up, because there are some script supervisors, I think that, and it's just, I just think that is how it goes, is that a young or a newer script supervisor is kind of more focused on the notes, to get the notes right, which are very important. and the continuity. And so they may not be advanced enough to get into the filmmaking aspect of it. And so if you have a script supervisor who, you know, maybe they wanted to be a director at one point, they may have a more filmmaking aesthetic behind them, you know. So that's where was my strong suit, which I didn't even know that I had. One is that no one told me that when the AD, the DP, and the director huddled together, that you're supposed to be over there too. I just went over there and was in the conversation with them and would just listen. And then I listened long enough, or I was there, and then maybe I said something that, you know, they agreed with, or they felt how I do the way that I look at the filmmaking process. They may say, "Oh, so what do you think, Dawn?" And then when I speak up, they're, "Oh, okay, she's right." You know, so I think to be able to utilize them is not to, and this is what I could just only take with J.J. Abrams, because I've worked with him the longest I've seen and have grown with him. And so what it was that I'll say something and he'll look at me a certain way, and it sparked creativity in him. And he didn't necessarily do what I said, but it sparked something, and he went another direction and then made it better. So that to me is what creativity is all about. I can't speak for other script supervisors because I've never been behind anybody watching how they do what they do. And so I just know that you want to trust them. So you have to probably it's kind of being tested, you know. I find that it takes about, if I've never worked with someone before and we're on a long project, or even if it's a short project, it takes at least a week before they truly trust my filmmaking opinion. And I think that has a lot to do with when the editor, because, you know, the editor starts, you know, putting the stuff together right away, even if it's, you know, just temporary. And when the stuff is matching, the stuff is cutting, or something didn't cut when the script supervisor said it ain't gonna cut, then they start to believe and trust the script supervisor. And so you might ask them, "So how was it? You got anything?" And a lot of times, if you give them that opportunity, they'll tell you. And a lot of them are right on point. And it could be all the way down to the acting. And it's like, okay, were they supposed to be a little bit more upset about that? Or aren't they a little too big? Mm-hmm. And then, okay, yeah. Or do you want to take that, you know, do you think you might want to just a close-up on this? You know, that type of thing. And not to be thinking, oh, you know, you trying to direct my movie. No. I'm just trying to help. And so for me, as a script supervisor, I decide, depending on how the director reacts to me, if I'm going to tell you or not. Because if it matches, cool. If the continuity is great, fine. But if I think of something, or me, it's more of a visual thing. I might visually see something. I might visually see a shot. And depending on my relationship with my director, I might say, you know, when she picked up that thing, you know, it might be really good to go in on that. And then I'll say, oh, yeah. And then sometimes if you're someone that I may be working with, but I don't necessarily respect you, now I keep my opinions to myself.
You collect your checks. I'm not mad.
You know what I'm saying?
Can you talk more about your process when you're actually on set?
I think you got to get more specific for me, because,
you know, once you start production and it's day one.
Well, I mean, it's 50-50, but writing down those notes, having a strong system and knowing your system is really key, especially when things start to get hectic and they're throwing up one or two other cameras, or you got someone running over to the side trying to film something over there, or the sun is going down and everybody's running around with their head cut off. You have to have a strong system so that you can adapt to the environment. I think for me, because I've always been digital, you know, the industry or my craft finally caught up about the last 5 years. But by 1994, I was digital. I've always typed. I was secretary, so presentation of your paperwork, you know, handwriting that stuff. Your hand cramps after a while. So no, I was not interested. I'm a typist, so I was like, let me start typing. So I started typing my work early on. And so I found that, one, typing my work, that's fine. I had my little thing, but it is really writing the notes and being able to kind of assess what type of project that you're on. Is it run and gun kind of a thing? Then you're going to have to like have that run and gun type of system. You might not be able to type, right away. You might have to wait until lunchtime to catch up with your notes and stuff like that. When I'm there, my system with my process with actors and stuff, I may have never worked with the actors before. So I just try to make them feel comfortable that, I got your back, and some directors don't want you to talk to their actors, which I think is a big mistake. You need to have a relationship so that they would trust me to say that, hey, you had that in your left hand or right hand or whatever, or to say, hey, you dropped this word in it, and then they don't get frustrated by it. So I try to establish, and sometimes I get to meet the actors before if I've never worked with them. But if not, if I'm meeting them for the first day, I try to introduce myself and try to make them at ease. So that's something that I do. I try to set a tone with my camera department because I'm getting the camera reports. I need to know how many cameras we throwing up, what you guys got, what you're working with, what cameras are we working with. I try to talk with the second ACs who I'm usually dealing with the camera reports and the slating system. I'm not a yeller, so I've learned and proven to myself I can shout out, okay, scene 25, Charlie, scene 25, Charlie, and then we getting ready to roll. Dawn, what's the scene number? So I just wait, and if you need to know, tell me. So I just kind of set those kind of things up, and then trying to get them to put the camera reports in my side pocket without tapping me on the shoulder when I'm working to tell me that you're dropping a piece of paper in my side pocket. So that's always been a nice little thing that takes a while for them to get used to. But yeah, so I just kind of like set my little tones of the people that I work with, and try to tell them how I work, and and I just find out other things like sound. Now we don't do any we don't interact with them when their camera rolls or their sound rolls or anything. They just send the whole thing in. I always tell them, well, if you want me to write anything on the notes, let me know. So yeah, that's basically it. I just kind of like go to the departments that I'm working directly on the set with, and introduce myself and kind of try to tell them how I work, type of a thing. The director, I've at least had my director's meeting, because sometimes the only time I've seen them is in the interviewing process, and maybe usually the director's meeting, and then the next time I see them, maybe I saw them in a meeting or two, is when we're on set. And I'm really very quiet the first couple of days, just assessing everybody and just having my head down and doing my work.
So who are you communicating with the most when you're on set and in pre-production?
Well, pre-production is really the production staff, your coordinators, getting the paperwork together, getting my distribution system together. How I distribute my own paperwork. I don't let anybody else take my paperwork and do anything with it, because one, they usually don't understand it. And then two, I've seen how back in the day when you used to have to either print something out and you let someone else print it out, and it'd be like printing all sideways and everything. Presentation of the paperwork is everything. And so I do my own work. I find out what distribution of the paperwork. I do work on high profile projects, but you don't, even if it's not a high profile, there's a certain security that needs to be going on. Not everybody needs the information. They really don't. Some people just being nosy. And so I just make sure that the right people are getting on the paperwork. So I make a distribution list, and I work with the production staff, and then I when I'm on set. It's usually camera. It's really everybody, because everybody knows my name. So it's like besides with the director, the DP, the camera, the video playback guy, we get our little system going. So I really kind of interact with everybody, because someone come out, it could be, makeup or wardrobe might have a question, and sometimes they want me to be the liaison to the director. And then sometimes, they can, which I've never understood, but, okay, I'll ask them, or they're asking me a question, do you know if he likes this or she likes that? And then, most of the times I just say, well, I can go ask them. And sometimes people don't feel comfortable going up to the director. They feel that they're disturbing them. And then, yes, you learn when the time to talk to them because the director is getting a gazillion questions asked to him. So trying to, to know the sweet spot of when to go in and ask. So I kind of interact, but with everybody, but mainly the camera, the actors, the director, the DP.
And can you tell us more about your system? Can you just kind of paint that picture for us, please?
My system, as far as the notes go, is it's just very organized. And there's a reason why I have everything where it is. I believe in formulas and in concepts. And that's kind of what I teach my peoples, because what it is that you need to, script supervising is a learned, it's a learned behaviors. You have to learn that when someone reaches for a door, that these checklists kind of happen in your mind. Some people learn it by default, or like they've made a mistake and then you're not going to forget that again. And again, I can't speak on anybody else's courses. I just can only go for the way that I teach it, is that there are certain things that you have to look for. It's a learned behavior. So there's a lot of things that you have to learn to automatically do. And so that is, and then over the years of just working, it becomes just an automatic learned behavior. So there's that, there's just things that I just automatically know to look for because I've learned it. And so the system, if the system that a script supervisor is learning is not making or teaching them to learn this over and over, get flashcards or whatever you have to do. Just like I said, like a door, is it open? Which way did it open? Outward, inward? Which hand did he grab to open it? How did they go through the door? Who went first? You got to like a group of who, to list the actors. All of that stuff is a learned behavior. Let me see what else. So that's part of the system. Knowing how to do the paperwork in a way that you're not into your script or into your computer with your head down typing when you're supposed to be looking at the screen matching, and following along. So that's there's a way to do that. There's a way to how to approach the director, when to approach the director. That I guess is part of the system. How to deal with your second AC about the camera reports. Nowadays, some people like to not do them, and I demand for them to be done, because how else are you going to be able to track the footage?
Why don't people want to? Why don't people want to do that?
I'm not really, because I'm not a camera person, but I think, to me, laziness. Because the core concept of it is that you have this footage that you are photographing, and it doesn't matter if it's tape or film. And because I think it's the ambit of tape, that they think that, like, well, the editor can just go through it. They don't really have time for all of that. You're still making somebody go through the footage, and they have to write it down. If I'm not writing it down, they're writing it down in the post process, because you have to know what's on the film. And the camera report is the start. Like on this camera roll, we have these scene numbers, and you don't have no camera roll. I mean, you don't have no report. Mm-hmm. You don't know if something like there's a big scratch or something happens on that footage. You don't know what camera it came from. Maybe your camera might have a problem. Mm-hmm. I mean, the actual craft is I mean, that's part of the actual craft, to be able to log what you're shooting. So not having camera reports, that just, it makes no sense to me. And so I just, and I talk about it and tell the AD, or the DP, and then of course we have camera reports. But yeah, I think it's just the advent of just like a newer, the way that new people come in to the industry, they may not have a good mentor, and they may just been thrown in it. I think that camera does have like a certain process that they do. Like a lot of times they're loaders at Panavision or something like that. They work at Panavision for a minute, and then to learn the cameras, and then they move up, and that type of thing, from what I've been told. And then nowadays, some of them are just kind of skipping that process, and they kind of sort of really don't know their own craft. And I've seen where anytime that they're on set, that they may have an internship type of program, and you always have people who want to be camera interns, but I can tell that the person who's in charge of them maybe not be a teacher type, and so they're not teaching them anything except maybe what they know, not how to deal with the script supervisor. So because I'm a teacher type, that I'm always teaching even them how to like fill out their camera reports correctly. So those are, knowing the system is like knowing what camera does. It's like I should know at least a basic overview of what camera does and how we interact. I follow my paperwork. That's really why I've gotten a strong system. I wanted to know who deals with my paperwork and why. And so as far as the editors go, like I said, I either go before, I definitely meet them before I show them what the work is going to look like. So if they have any questions, we can do it like beforehand. And then a lot of times during the shoot, I might call them up and say, hey, what's going on? And got anything? Or they've come down to the set, and we might just chit chat a little bit about how it's going, how it's cutting, how it's looking, do you need anything else from me, type of a thing. And then at the end, I go and I see how they utilize my paperwork. I look at their paperwork also, and to see if our information is matching up. One of the things early on that I realized in my career, or at least was something that I was very conscious of, is that I should, if I'm going to type something or put something down that is going to help them in the editing room, that maybe in their code book, instead of them retyping, they should be able to cut and paste or import the same information. So I use FileMaker Pro, which is just a very, everyday kind of, so it's a really hardy system. And I learned it. Well, it was bootleg to me when it was version 2. Now they're up to 16. And I learned it and I mastered that, and I stayed with that. And then as I grew in my career, that I found out that Avid, the main editing system, reads FileMaker Pro, and that the code books that the editors create for all their information is in FileMaker Pro. So it should be very easy to transfer or import information without people retyping it. So I've learned that. And then also that for the dailies, which is usually Pick System or something like that, they too are able to import my information, so no one is like retyping it. This I saw by going and following my work. looking at what they do, say, hey, how about this? Or I arrange certain things to coincide kind of sort of with what they are doing so that they're not retyping stuff that I'm on the set collecting in the first place.
Can you talk about, I mean, you've been in the industry, you know, since the 80s, like you said. Can you talk about how the changing of equipment has affected your role in any way, or has it?
Could you say that again, please?
Sure. Can you talk about the, you know, the development and changes in equipment? Has it on any level changed how you do your job over time?
Yes, it really has. I mean, from, you know, script supervisors, you know, they did pull them from the secretarial pool. And so they, you know, hand wrote a lot of stuff. And then they first were up in the rafters. They weren't even on the set. Then they brought them down to the set, and they still were doing everything by hand. And so then, like, okay, so I started in 1990, and so by 94, I was typing because I could figure out forms, you know, that it's nothing but a form. And so I was the first. There were other script supervisors, but they were like the top script supervisors that were doing films and stuff like that. And so they finally slowly caught on. There have been a few people who have created softwares for the script supervisor to be able to type their work. And everything was kind of good until the tape, you know, started, or digital, and the way that directors utilize it changed. As far, and what I mean is that not cutting the camera, keep rolling without cutting, or, you know, the camera dollies in or zooms into a close-up, you still haven't cut the camera. Long takes for no really good reason. And I asked the editor, how do you know that we dollied in for a close-up? And he says, because I see it in your notes. So for it to be in my notes, here I am, I'm looking at the screen, we going about, you know, doing the scene. I'm looking at the script, making sure the words are good. And all of a sudden you dial it into a close-up. Ooh, let me put that, like, so now my eyes have been reverted off the screen to put close-up down. So it really doesn't help nobody. What if I didn't write it? Then someone has to look at all that footage. It's not time saving. It's wasting time when it's just easier to cut, let people regroup, let the person go in there and powder the nose. You know, sometimes I see where maybe a flow is going type of a thing. Yes, you might go again, but it's like after a while, even the actors are a little fatigued. You know, they might get out of the zone because it is a long take instead of they were hoping for a reset. So that changed a lot of stuff, and that created a lot more work for us, because we're like, okay, so they did a close-up in there, so like they write the notes, okay, so kind of like about 2 minutes in, they like, you know, I mean, it's just not as productive. I feel that when the digital came, and then people just because it's cheaper, they think they just keep rolling. There's a reason to cut. You know, there's a reason to let the technicians in there and to do whatever, or to let the actors reset and get their minds right, or even the director to reset, you know, and say, okay, so let's try it like this. Unfortunately, when there's a few systems out there that people created, and so script supervisors and the younger script supervisor was like, you know, especially the younger, because they're used to the digital age. Anyway, they're used to, you know, typing notes and everything like that, but a lot of them don't know the craft. You know, typing your notes is just typing your notes, but knowing continuity and how to match and stuff, that's like a different skill set. And so a lot of them, especially when you are learning to use a software to type your notes, a lot of them don't know how to do it practically. So they are spending more time in the computer versus doing their craft, because the typing your notes is not the craft. Yeah, delivering your notes is part of the job, but that's not really the craft. So then so when the transition was being made, a lot of directors did not want script supervisors who typed their work. And I was like, okay, well, that's ridiculous. But I understood. It was the younger or some of the older ones because it was never taught how to do it properly. And then some people, they think that they get a certain software and they haven't had the training. They think they're script supervisors. So, and I usually call all of that out because it just demeans the craft. So that has a lot to do with how the industry has changed for us. And then that's just the paperwork side. Now on the filmmaking side of it, a director who comes in and doesn't know, they might be young, and you might have a more seasoned script supervisor. They're relying on that script supervisor to see, that ain't gonna cut, you need to do that, blah, blah, blah. But we're not getting paid for that. I have a niche of where I get younger directors who've done things, but this is a bigger budget that they've ever had. And of course, it's very smart. You surround them with veterans, but I'm not getting extra money for that. So what we do, especially a veteran script supervisor, they really, as they getting up more and more in the years, are paid. It's not going along with the advancement of the filmmaking.
I guess what tips can you offer these newer directors so you're not, doing more than what you're paid to do?
Well, really kind of just understand, that if you're a young director or a new director, yes, it behooves you to try to get a script supervisor that has some kind of experience. But just like John Singleton, he was just starting out and I was just starting out. But the producer saw that, well, actually he told me, he goes, I know you can do the paperwork, of course. He goes, but I didn't know you can do the filmmaking. But he gave me that opportunity. So sometimes, I don't want to negate anybody ever feeling that, hey, I'm gonna give that person a chance. But if you've got a pretty sizable budget or you just really can't afford to be making mistakes, then you do need to get that experienced script supervisor who will help you on the filmmaking side and not feel like they're trying to take over, to be able to hear what they say. You don't have to do what they say, but you have to hear what they say and see if, yes, that's a good idea, or yeah, let me try that and see if that works. So let's say that you're a young or new director, you've got a veteran script supervisor. How do you value them? Let's say you can't compensate them in pay and stuff like that, then maybe offer them credit. Maybe give them an associate producer's credit.
Right, yeah.
That's just what, one way of valuing them, bringing them in the meetings, when you are in discussions, have them come over and, join in on the conversation. I think there's just, those are kind of ways to value that, okay, this person is an experience. So, I'm not going to say who, but I was working with a younger director, and nothing I said, it was no with everything I said. And so the producer that was kind of in Video Village, who I've worked with before, he would hear what I had to say. And then when they were out of the tent, he would go tell them exactly the same thing. And then he would do it. So what I would do is that I would go and I would find who he would talk to or who they would listen to. And then I would tell them. And they go, okay, it's a good idea. I'll go do it. So I'm going to get it done. I'm going to make it a good film. I'm going to make you look good anyway. So I don't know. And I think it has a lot to do with just the fact of male female relationship on the set. No matter where you are, it's always male and female. There is a receiving process. As a new director, you need to know how you respond to receiving information.
Facts.
Because you might need to hear it, walk a couple of steps and process it, and then be able to make a decision. But the knee-jerk reaction of no, you need to really kind of like see if you're that person. I know, as for me, if I have something to say, okay, so they roll in the thing, the director says cut, I know that he needs a second to collect his thoughts, or their thoughts, or I always say he because I do work with a lot of men, but directors, period, anybody. So I know that the director has to take a time and collect their thoughts because they saw something and they wanted to say something, or to go to the actor or to go to the camera or whatever. So you gotta like give them that moment and not start talking the moment that he says cut. Sometimes they say cut, and then they look at me, and I look at them, and I was like, and, what? And then we might discuss. A lot of times they jump up and they run into the set, and so I might have a technical problem that I technically saw. Either it doesn't match the continuity or whatever. And so if he's not coming, or they're not coming back before we go roll again, I will get up and I'll walk and I stand to the edge of the set, because the set is the director's domain. I ain't trying to go in there and like say, well, this is happening and everything. So I always try to stand on the edge of the set. And so when I'm just standing there waiting for him to come back, and then I will say what it is. Or they see me standing on the edge and they say, okay, Dawn, come here. What is it? And if it has to do with an actor, I turn my back to the actor because they try to read lips.
There's a trend with a lot of films where there's like jump cuts, or I guess cuts that don't match. Do you agree with that? And then also, why do you think that it doesn't matter as much these days anymore?
I mean, it always matters when people are talking back and forth, if that's your style, that's fine. But like, it's almost like if you don't film it, it's not you can't use it. If you don't film it correct, because it may not work when you get into post. If the screen direct, so it's fine if you have a vision, but you might get in post and say, dang, that's not working. So it's no skin off of anybody's nose to have the correct screen direction, especially when people are talking. It's only a take.
Yeah.
At least get it correct the first time. And then if you're going to do it, because I did, it was only one season. It was called Philly. It was a TV show. I think Bochco did it. And Kevin Hooks was the showrunner, director, producer. And so we shot on both sides of the line at the same time. So I was 4 cameras and I go every day, all day long. At it correctly. And then I did see, and I always meant to just get, it was a beautifully edited scene, how it had 3 people in a room, and how they were able to jump cut back and forth. But once you jump on that other side, you got to they came back because we had the footage to come back. If you don't shoot it, you can't use it. So if you're going to have a vision that, oh, okay, I'm going to jump cut here, jump cut there, again, cool, but it might not work. You don't know. So might as well get the screen direction, if you can, correctly, so you have it, versus not.
Okay, got it. Do you feel like there's a big difference between working on television shows versus like films?
Yes, except for pilots. Pilots are more movie-ish like, because they give you more days to shoot the pilot. But yeah, TV is a grind, child. It's a grind. They move fast, it's not, they don't finesse as much as in films. I remember, and it would be Kevin Hooks too. I remember going, so what motivated that dolly? He goes, this is television. Ain't nothing motivated that dolly. So yeah, it's just faster, and it is called a grind. Yeah.
And is there a particular genre that you prefer to work on?
Yes, I'm into when I first got started, no, whatever I can like get the experience, that type of thing. I do commercials in between films, but films are my things, and I like the blockbusters.
Speaking of blockbusters, I'm really curious because it seems like script supervisors don't have any assistants, whereas like every other position in film, they have an assistant. So why do you think that is? And when you're on these bigger films, like when I see you've worked on Star Wars and Black Panther, I'm just thinking like, you're on this set without an assistant. Like how, how does that even work?
I don't, yes, it would be great. I have had trainees because I believe in moving the craft forward and teaching and training. And so anytime that I'm on a set, if they have any kind of a trainee program, I volunteer. It is more work for me because either you're getting someone who kind of wants to be it or they know nothing about it. So it's like, how do you utilize their services and how do you teach at the same time? So it is a little bit more work, but I am a teacher, so I volunteer. And like, how else is anybody going to know the craft? In Europe. So since I've worked over in London, and I know quite a few script supervisors, I've been over there twice on almost working collectively, like 2 years, almost 3 years collectively, that their system, which is to me is a little bit better, is that they have trainee script supervisors, they have assistant script supervisors, and then they have the script supervisor. This is their way of training people up. Now, of course, they got to the point where that they're trying to just like hire the assistant script supervisor and not the script supervisor, so this is a person who is still kind of sort of in training, but they're not as seasoned as the script supervisor. Over here there are a couple of systems that are going on in television. I think Mike Robbins, who did The Closure, they did Nip Tuck. Now, I did Nip Tuck the first season, and then I don't know how many seasons they did, and then I think they went to The Closure. In The Closure, because it's an ensemble cast, the main girl, which I don't know who she is, I can't think of her name, she had so many props, so many things that she says, I need a script supervisor that's just for me, or I just need one that's going to watch the props, the set, the dialogue. So they brought in another script supervisor, and what they did, and this is really kind of genius, and they really need to do it. Like I said, we already talked about how the camera going in, going out, not cutting, throwing in another camera. They have a script supervisor that sits with the director at the monitors and just does the camera paperwork. Then and whatever, I guess, continuity of GCs, I guess. Then you had another script supervisor who sat on the set, who dealt with props, continuity, dialogue for the actors. Genius, easy, because otherwise one person is doing something that two people really should be doing. So that there are a few people who also do that. Besides, when you have a second unit, of course, you need a script supervisor. You get another script supervisor, or you have a double up day where you have stopped one. On the double up day, the episode is ending, a new one is beginning, and you might have a second unit. So now you need 3 script supervisors. So that main script supervisor kind of like coordinates all of that. In films, if I have a second unit, I'll have a second unit script supervisor. Sometimes we have a third unit, bring in another script supervisor, but some do have assistants. I just never did, unless it was part of a program. it would be helpful, but I have a strong system, so I'm like really kind of used to just doing it. But yes, especially on the big blockbuster ones, it could be, it would be it would be helpful to have that extra hand either in the paperwork or the revisions. It depends on your director, because I work with people who love to revise while we shooting, so that type of a thing. So keeping up with that. Sometimes we have a script coordinator that kind of is part of our department for, especially if we're having a lot of revisions or something like that. But like the lower, not necessarily lower budget, but the smaller projects, they don't never even think that.
And are there some trainee programs that you can recommend, particularly in the States?
I know. I mean, I've been working in Atlanta a lot. I know that the Georgia Film Tech kind of has something going on there. I don't know if we have anything here. We Los Angeles, yes, I'm sorry, in Los Angeles. Our union, we train within our union. So we're always kind of sort of training. I've been told that the LA script supervisors are a stronger script supervisor, and it's probably only because we do a lot of training type of things. Outside of our union, I really don't know of any program that is reinforcing the craft.
Got it. And what's the name of your union?
Local 871 IATSE.
How can people sign up for your course, The Art of Continuity?
Okay, so let me break this down to everybody real quick. I have I have been under the radar. Yes, this is the 7th year that I've had the course, and I before had been teaching, but I only taught once a year because I'm a working script supervisor. And I would have it at different places, but always on a Sunday, because back in the day, we used to not work on a Sunday. Now we can work anytime, anytime. So then when I started traveling a lot and I would meet people and they said, oh, I want to be trained, then someone gave me the idea of putting it online, and I use Adobe Connect. And so we were able to record the videos, and from those are the lessons, and then for the online course. And then I started putting more stuff in there. I started writing out my lessons, and my workbook is about 230 pages, of which you get piece by piece by piece by piece by each lesson. Now, only time that I've ever advertised was that one time in 7 years ago. The rest has been word of mouth. I do have a Facebook page, but I can't even get in it to retrieve it because it keeps locking me out. So I've kind of abandoned it because I can't get into it. And they don't have anybody that you can really write to tell, hey, help me with this. But anyway, so it's always been kind of sort of word of mouth. I'm getting to the point where I've been trying to update it, because I have all kinds of visions of making it like really cool and just doing some cool stuff. What I've done is great, but I want to do more. And my thing is, like, right now, yes, we're not, I guess they're gearing up. People are, I think July, August, a lot of people are going to come back to work. I guess I have nothing on the books, haven't been called for anything. But I will, this would be a good time if someone wants to do the course, they can. I will give it to you. All you have to do is email me at theartofcontinuity@gmail.com, and I will send you out what the course is, how much it is, and if you get started, you just pay the money and you get started. If you want to chit chat about it, you just call me up and I will chit chat about it. I send the information once and that's it. I don't be chasing people down, because as the woman said, I ain't got time for that. So if you're interested, if you're really serious, then you'll call, you'll contact, you'll get in, you get in touch with me. And so I I do have a private chat group for the students where they post their homework and then they talk and amongst themselves. And sometimes I'll post a job, sometimes other people post a job, but we have like a little small community. But I just, I have to get used to like just start to say, yes, I have this course. Because when I get busy, I still do my, I do private video reviews on the homework. So I can talk from anywhere from a half an hour to an hour on the subject. So I'm trying to get it. And one of the reasons why I'm trying to update it, it's 12 lessons. Well, actually 13, surprise. And so I'm trying to get it redone so I can package it for the film schools so that it can be at film schools.
I know that you've had a full career or a long career as a script supervisor, but have other script supervisors like quote unquote moved up the hierarchy of filmmaking, like, and become like, I don't know, unit production managers or directors or anything like that? Is that a common path?
There are people out there. There's one girl that I trained years ago, Nicole Rubio. She got on Grey's Anatomy, and they asked her after season 4 to direct. She wasn't ready. They asked her again in season 9. She started directing, and now she's a full-time director. There are other script supervisors who have become directors. Some of them write. You can produce. You learn to produce from there. And some people go into editing. But mostly, a lot of script supervisors do want to direct, and sometimes it seems to be that you have to be on. The opportunity comes when you're on a television series, because you get a new director every 8 to 10 days. You kind of like know the story, you know how it's shot after a while, and then that opportunity is, and sometimes not right away when you're asked. It takes them a while. I've been talking, and it's funny because Nicole and I had a long conversation a couple of months ago, because there are script supervisors, especially the ones that are in a local, who want to direct. And when they've been calling for more women to be directors or more opportunity, be it for culture or race or the women, one niche that is industry grown is being overlooked. And I still have been trying to rack my brain of how to present this, but there are a niche of script supervisors who want to direct, who have the experience because they've been sitting on set for years next to directors. And so when you have the programs, I know ABC has a program, I think everybody has a program, but the one that I just know of, the ABC has the shadowing kind of program, kind of a deal. Any of the programs that, definitely from the studios, if they select 10 people, then and again, I just don't know how to figure it out, but there needs to be like a campaign that there should be a seat for script supervisors. Maybe I'll go with union script supervisors who want to direct. They should be able to be part of that process. And one of the things they always are asking is like, show us your film and everything. We don't have films because we work in. When you're working on like for me, I was a single mom. There's no way that I could break off and go shoot a film. I didn't have a husband, that maybe could have picked up the slack for a hot minute. So that's what a lot of script supervisors don't have, because we work in. We don't have time to break, to do that. So there needs to be an opportunity. It is a niche group, but it is a indirectly trained group that can fill that call for women directors, other cultures, other races to be in there. I just haven't figured out how to present it, because it's there. you know. And then also, and it's not just because, you know, just because I'm a script supervisor and I want to direct, you might not be good at nothing, you know. But I mean, there always should be like a review process, of course, but at least be able to have a seat at the table, that they should have one opening to look at the industry has trained us to be directors. And then for in my local, it's not just script supervisors. We have coordinators, the production coordinators and assistants and like that. They're the ones who would become producers. UPMs, it's usually your ADs that become UPM, because it's more of a direct line, because they're dealing with the UPM more. But the coordinators are the ones who are dealing with the producers. So the same as script supervisors becoming directors, the coordinators could become producers. So yeah, it's like when I was president of the local the last term, and I'm one and done because I'm not a political person. I've come to find out. You know, I did get a few things done. I would like to proudly say that on IMDb, the new category, script and continuity department, is because of my efforts for 4 years.
Wow.
Of finding them people and getting that done.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. I'm
amazing.
very, very proud of it. They've been trying for years, and I was able to use the title to open the doors and, you know, give JJ Abrams, you know, I'm like, I went to JJ and was like, you know, and then he, you know, got the ball rolling, and I was able to get my foot in the door, and I kept at it and built a relationship with them, and we got it done. I do believe it was last November. Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that when the last time I was on IMDb. I didn't really realize it was new, but now that you're saying it, I'm like, yeah, there wasn't a continuity department.
Yeah, we were in miscellaneous crew.
Mm.
And we really are, it's an interesting position. We really are kind of like at the line. We deal with nothing but above the line people. But we're considered below the line. But yes, I'm very proud of that accomplishment. But yeah. Did I answer the question?
Oh yes.
Okay, all right.
That and more.
Okay.
And more.
So my question before we wrap is, how has COVID-19 impacted your career, and what do you foresee for the future?
Interesting that you would say that. On my last job, I was, and mind you, this would be a good example of having a strong system. There was a script supervisor it was a male script supervisor. He's older, and his wife was sick or something and needed to leave. They had to leave. And so it was for Suicide Squad. And so I pretty much left one job we wrapped at 3:00 in the morning. They had a driver for me at 4:00 in the morning, and I was on the plane to Atlanta to step in to Suicide Squad 2. The producer that I knew nobody. I knew a few people from the technicians because I worked in Atlanta, but like the higher ups, I never worked with these people before, or the director. And so, so I became friends with the one of the producers, and she just kept saying, "You just came in and just picked it up like it was nothing, and it just kept going." She goes, I'm still, you know, flabbergasted at that. And it's because I have a strong system. I know my craft. And so, and I hope that hacking is my old 14-year-old daughter, old 14-year-old dog, who all of a sudden they start hacking for some odd reason. I don't know what. He's like, are you okay over there? Okay. It's so funny, like an old woman. But anyhow, so yeah, I had a strong system. So I came in, and so we went to Panama, and I slipped and fell on set. It was gravelly. It's supposed to look like we're destroying that neighborhood. A monster is destroying the neighborhood, and I slipped. So I had already I'm an entrepreneur type. And so I had already started thinking, oh, I got to like start pushing this, I got to start doing, my own thing type of thing. Not to stop script supervising, but just, do my own thing. And so I hurt my knee. And so then we had about a week and a half left. And so I'm up in the hotel room and I started just working on my projects. So I come home, we had like maybe another week. We go back, I probably had another week before, and then we wrap. And then I come home February 29th. I started working on my project like the next day, and I've been working on my business since. Everyone is running around, and about the industry. I really don't know what's going on as far as all the intricate details because I've been focused on my business. Now it looks like they are going to probably be open up in July, August. And I'm like, okay, and if I have to take a job, I'll take a job and to pay the bills, but I'm pretty much have been working on my business. So for me, it gave me the permission to follow dreams and ideas. I think that the world sitting down for a moment and having to cut the fat, because a lot of fat got cut, and a lot of creativity came out of that also. A lot of people came up with a lot of other stuff. A lot of businesses were formed during this, and is being formed during this time. So and then I don't know if out here in Los Angeles, it was crazy raining for like a week or two, and it felt like it was a cleansing. Let's make the slate, cut, let's start all over. Let's clean the slate. Let's clean the earth a little bit. Everything kind of got like washed away. I philosophically, that's the way that I look at it. As far as my career is concerned, my goal really, I'll work if I have to work, but I'm hoping that I can get my business off. So maybe I can be selective and just maybe work one job. I actually do have something on the books, but it's not like until October. And so I think that it's going to be a new era with this whole, being a little bit healthier, and all the protocols that they have to do. We'll work it out. I work on jobs where you get to read a script in a room. You get to write, you have to do your notes in a room. And department heads and everybody has complained about it. Me and the AD are the only ones that have a script. We get it done anyway. So I think it's going to be the same thing. We have, once they figure out what all the restrictions are, we'll still get it done because that's kind of what we do. We're like gypsies, we just adapt to whatever, we just pick it up and we just go. So so I think that we'll be all right. I think that now with the awareness of those in power to the plight of Black people and brown people in this country, that maybe more opportunity will open up as far as seeing more content or people of, Black people behind the scenes or being the director, producer, whatever. I think that the opportunity is there, but you still should be ready. Just because we have Black skin doesn't mean you should get the job if you're unqualified. Mm-hmm. That's not fair for nobody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
agreed.
So yeah. I would say out there, be ready, get ready. So when that door of opportunity opens up, you can walk through. So I'm going to say really quickly, my new business is called, I'm creating an app. And so I've been like working on that, right? So it's like been, it's been developing. And then I am now trying to develop it for the venture capitalists, and they asked for $1 million of, the ask is for $1 to $5 million. Child, I was thinking 50,000. I had to like think bigger. Mm-hmm. And so once I thought bigger, then yes, so I had to, there's things that I don't know. So I've had to hire a financial consultant who deals in venture capitalists and seed money and all like that kind of stuff. And it ended up being a Black woman. And so she said something, I was making a joke. I was like, well, maybe now I can get some money, because they were like, okay, let's give her the money, that type of a thing. But like she says, but you want to have all the things that, even regardless of what's been going on, that is what they're used to seeing, so I need to have my financials together. I need to have this together. I need to have that together. So I say to everybody, yes, that the door of opportunity may be open for more Black people and brown people and women and all like that, but be ready. Don't come half-ass. I don't want to curse, but don't come limping. Don't come, have your stuff together. We usually are always having to be at 150%, but I like working at that level. Mm. My average is a lot of people's best. Mm. Because I try to give more service than required. Mm-hmm. I'm going above and beyond, so that and I don't know, for me, that's how I've always been, and I feel that it has worked for me. I don't just come in at average. I don't just do the 100%. Some days that's all you got is 100%, but mostly I run at 150%. Mm. And so that's how we should, you always want to do your best, man. It's like, why be less? But the door of opportunity is definitely, screaming open. It got blasted open. So this is our opportunity. Exactly. This is our opportunity to shine, and to shine with grace and knowledge and wisdom.
I'm looking forward to that change.
Can I do a little shout out? Can I do one more thing? Is that my business is called Date My Makeup, and it is an expiration tracker that an app that I'm creating, mainly for the Generation Z, but it is to date your makeup because makeup does expire. We are going to be doing a lot of social media kind of stuff that has to interact with the app. Me being a dancer, we'll have dance challenges and stuff like that on there. Not that I'm going to be dancing. I'm going to get some young new choreographer to create dances for my brand. And this Saturday is a launch. We're going to be opening up on all the social media platforms. And so I'm asking for everyone to come follow me. If this is before June 13th, or after, come follow Date My Makeup. And we just got approved for a Juneteenth filter.
Awesome. Wow.
There's going to be, I know it's already up, but don't go there yet. June 13th, we will announce that. And this is something that I came up with about 10, 12 years ago. It was called Date Your Makeup labels that you put on your makeup. And so for whatever reason, I did my little prototype, just got sat down, and then me getting hurt in Panama, then the idea came up and says, make it an app. And I was like, and I've been working on that ever since. My logo girl is named Dewey, and it's someone that I used to draw back when I was in my 20s. And so, of course, went to a logo artist, and I had it all made up. And then it got revamped. She got revamped, and she has 15 sisters with different skin tones, hair color alike. And those are my brand ambassadors. And so you're going to be seeing these Deweys all different shades and skin tones, pumping out this sticker filter thing that says Juneteenth on it. And the app is coming. It's in development, it's in development, so I'm just trying to get the followers. You have to show the investors that you have people who would be interested in the brand. And we have a Shopify store that we're going to be opening up with t-shirts, and our whole business. So please come follow at Date My Makeup.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations. And if people want to get in touch with you directly, anything, any way they can get in touch?
Okay, so if it's for the Date My Makeup, Dawn at Date My Makeup. For continuity and film stuff, the art of continuity at gmail.com. And knowing how to spell continuity is your first lesson. Because I've even misspelled it. I was like, why can't I get in? It's like I've misspelled it. The art of continuity at gmail.com or Dawn at Date My Makeup.
Awesome. Okay. Nice.
Alrighty. Thank you,
Dawn.
All right, thank you, Dawn. Thanks for listening to the Black Film Space podcast. If you're interested in being part of our community and attending events, please visit us at blackfilmspace.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Black Film Space. Subscribe to our email list and podcast. All right, see you soon.